Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry, blue dye, it is not tattoos. So we are on block 4 for our mystery star block, and so let's get started. I've already got my star legs for my frame done, so all we need to do is the center block, and we are going to be doing that block there. It's called the antique tile. It's a lot of little pieces, but it's pretty easy, it looks like, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So you're going to need a light, two dark, and a medium for this. And I did the same thing she did. If you'll see in her, she didn't use any like white or anything for the background. She used these bubbles, this light blue, and I'm going to use purples, but this is going to be my light. So, and then here is my medium, and here is my dark. So those are the colors. So hopefully it turns out. So from your light, you're going to need one 1.5 by 7 inch rectangle, one 1.5 by 11 inch rectangle, and one 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. And then your dark fabric, you're going to need a 1.5 by 11 inch rectangle, one of those. And then fabric 3, which is your medium, you're going to need a 1.5 by 7 and 4 1.5 by 2.5 rectangles. That's a lot. All right, but we got it. So the first thing we're going to do is join our 1.5 by 7 inch strips. And I'm going to just bend you down here. Hopefully you can see. So we're going to join these together. Now these are pretty narrow, so be sure your 1/4 inch seam, is pretty accurate. And in another step, later step, we're also going to join these 1.5 by 11 inch strips. So I'm just going to chain piece these. So we're going to put them right sides together and do the same thing. Because we're going to we're going to subcut these. And so I'm just going to chain piece them, and then we can do all of the cutting at one time. Make sure they stay lined up on you. Okay, so we're going to press these open. Just like so. Whoop. I was trying to stretch that one all out of sorts. And I'm going to go ahead and press this one. I don't know why I'm pressing it to the lighter side. I think you're probably supposed to press it to the dark side. I wasn't thinking. Oh well, if it don't work, we can do something different with it. I don't think it's going to matter too much, though. I think because the way we're going to piece these together, it's we won't have no seams really to nest or anything. So, all right, so now we're going to subcut these down. And the 7 inch strip, we're going to subcut these into 2.5 inch pieces. Yeah, 1.5 by 2.5. So your strip should be 2.5 tall. But you can measure it to make sure. Mine is pretty close. Yeah. So then we're just going to go through here and cut this into 1.5. I better turn my ruler around so I don't get my measurements right. 1.5 segments. So it should be 2.5 tall here. We're going to cut 1.5 segments. And I think, let's see, we're going to need 4 of these. So there's 1, 2, 3, and it looks like we're going to have a little bit left over extra, so that's good if you have your edges didn't quite meet up or whatever. So we've got all 4 of those. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my 11 inch strips since we're here and I've got my cutting deal here. Now these again should be 2.5 inches tall when you sewed them. Mine are just about almost there, not quite, but they're close. But we're going to cut them in 2.5 inch segments. We need 4 of these segments. My ruler is 2.5 inches wide, so this works out perfectly. I probably should have pressed the seams open, and I probably could have got a little more accurate. But that's okay. I can make this work. Because it's really, really close. So I can just you know, just a wee bit. Okay, so now we're going to take our 4 1.5 by 2.5 rectangles, and we're going to sew it to the first strip that we cut, the little 1.5 by 2.5s. There was a 7-inch strip, and 2 of these need to be on the right and 2 need to be on the left. And if you look at the pattern, the very first picture, she's got these 2 facing up, and then these 2 facing down, and all of these will go on there, and then that would make them in the correct position. But if we did it with those facing up, then you would just put these on this side here, like so. Yeah, but I'm going to do it like she's got it in the picture, just because, yeah. Okay, there. That way I can chain piece them. Okay. So 2 need to be on the left of these little strip sets, and 2 need to be on the right of them. I'm probably confusing the heck out of all of y'all. Okay, so I'm going to flip these over, and I'm just going to chain piece these. And these are pretty small, so, you know, like I said, be sure your seam allowance is pretty close, because it's definitely going to show. And like I said, my little strip set was just a little shy of 2.5 inches, but I'm being able to ease that in there. I just lack just a teeny little bit of getting it there, and it could have just been in the way I pressed it, but I'm just able to pull it down and just ease it in and make it fit. Okay, so I've got all these sewn together, and I'm going to take them over here, and we're going to press them open. So I'm just going to press to, since it's got a seam on this side, I'm just going to press to this longer strip here. Oh, mine are all kinds of wonky. I'm going to have to do some trimming. They should be 2.5 inch square though, if you wanted to square them up, because that's what size all the other pieces are. I'm going to check mine just to see. I'm curious. They look pretty close, but I do have a little bit of wonky edges on there. Me and little tiny pieces, ooh, it's hard for me. So let's see here. Pretty close. That one's really, really, really close. Like I said, if you needed to trim these down, now would be the time. Or, like I've got a little wonky edge there, and I think I'll just go ahead and trim that off a little bit, just so that it's straight. It won't be much, just a teeny bit. Okay. I think the rest of them look pretty good, so we're good. So you should have 4 of these sets with 2 of these on the right and 2 on the left, and then you should have your 4 little strip sets here and your little center square. And then we're just going to lay this out like a 9 patch. And if you'll follow the pattern on the picture on the pattern, we should have it. So we've got our little center square. The dark strip's going to go to the inside of that square all the way around, like so. All right, and then these little lighter squares are going to go to the inside corners here. So just like so. All right, perfect. So then we're just going to sew it together. It's just a small 9 patch at this point. So I moved everything up here on my sewing table, so I'm just going to flip. This is the first 2 out of the first top row. I'm just going to flip those over, and we do have seams to match. What do you know? It didn't look like it at the time, but now it was kind of hard for me to make out that picture. But anyway, they should nest right up. And then I'm going to grab the first 2 from the second row and just chain piece these through. That way when I get them all done, they'll all be attached, and all I have to do is open them up and sew them together. So then the last 2. Yeah, these are teeny weeny little pieces. Let's see, that one needs needs to come down there. Okay, so then when I open these up, I'm going to press this top one to the inside. Then I can just add my next piece. Just make sure your lighter colored square is going down in this corner here. And this one, I'll press to the outside. So that goes there. This is a very easy block, but I think it's going to, depending on what colors you used, you know, you could have a really cool effect. So this one to the inside. So that goes there. I mean, like if you use like blacks and grays and maybe made the center red, you know, the little square in the center. Ooh, yeah. I could see this being a really neat little block. Okay, so this one was pressed to the inside, so I'm just going to finger press these. That was to the outside, and this was to the inside. And then just now now they're all attached. They're all in the order that I need them to be in, so I can just flip this over and sew it down. Make sure this other one stays out of the way. You don't want to accidentally sew that up in there. Don't ask me how I know. Like I said, mine are just a little wonky, but I'm able to just pull them and stretch just a teeny bit to get what I need out of them. I mean, they're not off by very much at all, so I'm going to, this bottom seam needs to go the other direction, so there we go. Okay, that way I can get those to nest. Alright, then we're just going to open this up. I'm going to finger press this open, and then we'll flip this one over, and we should have our little block. I was going to cut this part of it out, but y'all can watch me struggle, because like I said, I don't do tiny pieces. Not very many of my quilts will have little bitty pieces. I guess I'm just not very good with them, I guess. I don't know. I don't feel like I am, so I kind of shy away from them whenever I'm quilting. But this one's not too bad. Okay, so there's our little block. So I'm going to finger press this open. And it definitely needs a starch and a good press. I'm a little wonky on this side. But then we're going to measure this out, and it should measure 6.5 inches. So let's get it pressed. All right, so I'm going to kind of finger press what I can, where I can, and get it where I want it. The good thing about this block is you'll be able to trim this up. There's no points to worry about losing, you know, or anything like that. So if you had to trim some off, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Yeah, mine's a little crazy going here. That starch will help. And then I'm kind of just pulling it where it needs to be. But don't pull too much, because you'll get it, you know, you'll get your whole block like wave in it. It'll look like a wave. And we don't want that. So, okay, so let me measure this and see where we're at. So my ruler is 6.5 inches. Oh, I actually got to trim it. Okay, I'm good with that. I'd rather trim down than be too small. So let's see here. So what I'm going to do is center my dark squares on the 2-inch lines here. And that way I know my block will be exactly center, and then I can just trim off anything else other than that. So I'm just going to rotate my mat around here. There we go. So I didn't trim off too much. Just a little. All right, so there's our little center block, or insert. So let's get our star legs put on there. I just want to jump right in right here and mention that if you're just now seeing this video, if you'll go into the playlist on my channel, you'll see Mystery Star Block, and the very first video has a instructions and measurements on how to make star legs, because this is what we're framing our little 6.5 inch blocks up with to make a 12-inch block. But if you need directions for that, it'll be the very first video. That's the very first thing we did, was build the frames. Okay, so I got my little middle block, then the bottom row, I've got a side row. Make sure your star points are going in. I sewed these together earlier, and I had, on 2 of these, I had the half square triangle turned wrong. I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, that don't look right. All right, so that's going to be our block. So let's go over here to the sewing machine and get her sewn up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put the star legs on the sides of the block, the shorter star legs. And then that way this will make the center row. And then we can just add the rows, the top and bottom rows, and have our block done. And for some reason, my little star legs are just a little bit longer than they should be. I don't know how that happened. I'm going to have to do some trimming. But you know what? That's just part of it. Yeah, see, even this one's bigger. I must have, when I trimmed these down, I bet I didn't trim these down. I bet that's what I did. I did not trim them down to 3.5. Oh boy. All right, well, I'm just going to center this. Oh, see? This is the reality. We won't cut that out because we're being real here. I'll just trim it off. It's centered. It'll be close. So. Yeah, I get a little hangover there, but let me trim that off right quick. Okay, all fixed up. So we're all good now. So I'm just going to press these open. I'm not sure which way to press them. There's a lot of seams on both of them. I guess I'll just press them to the outside. I don't think it's... No, I think I'll go to the inside, because that point right here where the star legs is, there's no seam right there, and I think that would be better. So we'll press these to the inside. It'll be a little bit flatter. Okay. Yeah, I remember now when I made these, I pressed them open and everything, and then I was going to square them, and I did not. So that means my other one, these ones are going to be the same way. Oh my. Okay, so let me do a little fixing, and then we'll get this block put together. But you might want to see what I'm doing to fix the issue. I didn't want to tear apart the half square triangles, so I'm using my 6.5 inch ruler, because we know they need to be 6.5 inches. And I'm just going to line the very center of my ruler up on my seam, and then I'm just going to trim up the sides. And I'm going to make sure that they are 3.5 from the top to the bottom, which they are. They're just a little wide. And then that'll give me a 6.5 inch deal here. Let me turn this. I'm going to cut the wrong way. Okay. So then I'll do the same thing on this one. So that's one way you can fix it. 3.5. Or you could have, I could have just took them apart and re-squared them, but I just really didn't want to do that. So just doing it this way. And it's going to all work out the same in the end anyhow, so the measurement will be right. And so we'll call it good for there. All right, so let me sew the ends back on these. All right, now they fit and we're back in business. So, okay. You know, and I see a lot of people talk about they don't square. They just use a careful 1/4 inch seam and this and that and everything. I always try to square. I got a seam guide. I use a careful 1/4 inch seam too, and I even have a seam guide on my sewing machine, but you know, it still happens. And so if you square it, it'll all go together just that much easier. At least for me, and it's much more pleasant to quilt when all your blocks will fit together than it is to be laying it up on the wall, and some are awkward and, you know, maybe twisted a little or too big, and then, you know, it's kind of just deflating to see that happen after all your hard work. So if you square up as you go, everything will fit together nicely, and it just, I don't know, for me, it just seems like it makes the whole process much more enjoyable. And you feel satisfied, you know that you did a good job, and you know you can be proud of it. And because you know how us quilters are, if we know a mistake is in a quilt, every time we look at that, we'll see that the first thing, even though nobody would ever see it again, you know, notice it, we will, and we know it's there. So square up as you go prevents all of that. Well, it doesn't prevent the mistakes, but it helps your blocks fit together. So better. All right. So make sure I'm not sewing them wrong. We're almost done. This video turned out longer than it should have. I shouldn't have made so many mistakes, yeah? Oh well, that's just part of the process. It's not the first time, and I'm sure it ain't going to be the last time. So I'm just nesting my seams here with my block and making sure everything is straight. Right, there she is, all done. So let's get it all pressed up. All right. So your block should measure 12 inches finished or 12 and a half unfinished, however you do your measurements. And if it, you know, if your sides, mine looks pretty straight except for right here's a little bit wonky. I might trim that off, but I could probably just starch this and just kind of press it out because it's not very much at all, but I may need to just press that. But if it's a little wonky, just, you know, you can trim just a wee bit off if you need to. The star points, you know, we've got plenty of room there. Make sure you just leave your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And yeah, vintage tile. How cute is that? I love the purple. So there you have it, number 4 in our mystery block of the month, mystery star block of the month series. And this is vintage tile. So here is the block. And yeah, y'all got to see me make my mistakes and everything. You know, though, that's just part of it. You guys do it, I do it, we all do it. It's just part of it. So I thought, you know, when I was fixing those, I thought that was one way to fix them. You could have took them apart and re-squared the half square triangles. That would have been totally up to you, but I'm a lazy sewer, and if I don't have to, I'm not going to. And if you look at the block, you cannot tell. They all look identical. So I don't know why the sides went on so easily and fit. The sides actually fit. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. All right, so I will see you guys next month for our 5th block. And yeah, we're going to just trudge right on along. Like I said, I think we're going to do 20 blocks. And then we have some bonus blocks. So you might be able to swap them around, or make a bigger quilt, or make a table runner, or whatever you know, wall hanging pillows, whatever. I love a block like this just for the front of a pillow. You know, maybe add some sashing, white sashing, or a border around it, and then use this as the pillow, the pillow front. Beautiful. I love them like that. They look really nice. So, okay. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next month.